The rain arrives first, not as a storm, but as a presence. A slow curtain descending through layers of heat and leaves. The Amazon rainforest breathes beneath it, vast, flooded, almost lightless in places. A world where visibility collapses after a few meters, where movement is often heard long before it is seen. And somewhere inside this living darkness, something moves almost invisibly, not because it hides, but because the forest itself seems to erase it. A jaguar, but not the one most people imagine. No golden coat, no visible rosettes beneath the canopy. Only black, a shape without detail. A predator that appears less like an animal and more like a gap in the jungle itself. For centuries, stories emerged from the Amazon about enormous dark cats moving silently through flooded forests. Hunters described eyes reflecting briefly between trees, then disappearing before the mind fully processed what it had seen. Indigenous communities across South America often treated these animals differently from ordinary jaguars. Not merely rare, but altered. As though the rainforest had produced something more secretive than the predator already feared at the top of its food chain. Today, science knows these animals as melanistic jaguars, black jaguars, a genetic variation of the jaguar. But the deeper researchers looked into them, the stranger the picture became. Because the black coat may not simply be a random mutation. In some regions of dense rainforest, it may actually be an advantage. And in the largest rainforest on Earth, advantage changes everything. At first glance, the black jaguar appears completely black. But under certain light, the rosettes remain, hidden beneath the dark pigmentation like shadows beneath water. Its pattern never disappears. It simply becomes almost impossible to detect. And inside the Amazon, that matters. Because the rainforest is not merely crowded, it is visually chaotic. Light breaks apart before reaching the ground. Leaves scatter movement into fragments. Branches create false shapes everywhere. For prey animals, survival depends on detecting tiny irregularities. A line that should not exist, a movement that feels out of place, a silhouette separating itself from the vegetation. The normal jaguar already possesses one of the most effective camouflage patterns in the animal kingdom. Its rosettes disrupt the outline of the body in shifting forest light. But in deeper rainforest zones, where visibility collapses into shadow, dark coloration may become even harder to perceive, especially near water. And the Amazon is filled with water, flooded forests, black water rivers, swamps reflecting almost no light. In these environments, a black predator does not merely blend in, it dissolves. Jaguars are already among the most powerful cats on Earth. Unlike cheetahs built for speed or lions adapted for open pursuit, jaguars evolved for ambush. Short distance, maximum force. A compact body carrying extraordinary muscle density. Their bite force is among the strongest of all big cats relative to size. Strong enough to pierce turtle shells. Strong enough to crush skulls. Most predators kill through suffocation. Jaguars often kill through direct penetration of the brain case. And inside the Amazon, that efficiency matters because energy disappears quickly in rainforest ecosystems. Movement through dense vegetation consumes enormous effort. Heat drains the body constantly. Waterlogged terrain slows pursuit. A failed hunt can become dangerously expensive. So evolution favored precision, stillness, timing. The jaguar does not chase the jungle. It waits for the jungle to come close enough. And when it attacks, The violence is usually over in seconds, sometimes less. But black jaguars introduce another layer to this strategy, one that may make ambush even more effective, especially at night. The Amazon rainforest at night is not silent. It only sounds that way from far away. Up close, it is saturated with signals. Insects vibrating through the darkness. Tree frogs producing overlapping frequencies. Fish striking the surface below flooded branches. Monkeys giving distant warning calls. Everything listens, because almost everything is hunted by something else. And in this environment, vision becomes unreliable. Sound matters more. Scent matters more. Instinct matters more. But then there are moments when even instinct fails. Motion without warning. A shape materializing too close. Researchers studying camera trap footage have documented black jaguar appearing almost unnaturally difficult to detect in nighttime rainforest recordings. Even when directly in frame, the animal absorbs light instead of reflecting it. Its body outline becomes unstable. At certain angles, only the eyes remain visible. This effect becomes even stronger near rivers during moonless nights. The Amazon's black water systems contain high concentrations of tannins from decaying vegetation. The water reflects very little light. The forest floor above it becomes nearly featureless. And against that darkness, the melanistic jaguar can approach with astonishing concealment. One leading theory suggests this may explain why melanism persists in dense tropical forests across multiple feline species. Not just jaguars. Leopards show similar patterns in Southeast Asian rainforests. Dark coloration repeatedly appears in habitats where visibility is fragmented and heavily shaded. Different continents, different species, but remarkably similar environmental pressure. As though dense rainforest ecosystems continuously push evolution toward the same solution. Disappear first, kill second. But camouflage is never free. Every adaptation creates trade-offs, and black fur carries risks. In open environments, melanistic jaguars become easier to detect during daylight. Heat absorption may also become more intense beneath direct tropical sun. In grasslands or dry forests, the mutation loses much of its advantage, which may explain why black jaguars remain uncommon outside heavily forested regions. The rainforest shapes them and perhaps confines them. Because evolution does not create perfection, it creates compromise. A trait survives only if its advantages outweigh its costs inside a specific environment. And nowhere on Earth imposes environmental pressure quite like the Amazon rainforest. The scale is difficult to comprehend. The Amazon rainforest covers millions of square kilometers across South America. It contains roughly 10% of known species on Earth. Thousands remain undocumented. Entire ecological relationships still poorly understood. There are river systems inside it longer than many countries. Sections so isolated that large mammals can remain virtually unobserved for years. And within this immensity, the jaguar sits at the top, not merely as a predator, but as a regulator of fear. Capybaras alter movement patterns around jaguar territory. Caimans avoid vulnerable shorelines. Monkeys produce specific alarm calls depending on whether the threat comes from above or from the forest floor. The jaguar changes behavior without even being seen, an invisible pressure shaping the entire ecosystem around it. And black jaguars may amplify that invisibility even further. Yet despite their reputation, seeing one in the wild is extraordinarily rare. Even researchers studying jaguars for decades may never encounter a melanistic individual directly. Many observations come from fleeting camera trap footage, brief movements at the edge of infrared range, a black shape crossing silently between trees, then gone. And this rarity creates another effect. Human imagination begins filling the gaps. Throughout parts of the Amazon basin, stories emerged of oversized dark cats possessing unusual intelligence. Animals that seemed to observe humans rather than avoid them. Some accounts describe them moving without sound across flooded branches. Others claimed they appeared only briefly, always at dusk, always near water. Most of these stories cannot be verified, but they reveal something important. Predators humans rarely see often become psychologically larger than reality, especially in environments humans themselves struggle to navigate. And few environments disorient humans more completely than the Amazon rainforest. Inside dense jungle, direction collapses quickly. Sound travels unpredictably. Distances become deceptive. The forest repeats itself endlessly. One tree resembles the next. One flooded channel resembles another. Even experienced guides can become spatially disoriented in unfamiliar regions. For early explorers, the rainforest often felt alive in an almost hostile way. Not because it attacked directly, but because it concealed nearly everything. And the black jaguar fit perfectly into that psychological landscape. A predator already difficult to observe, becoming nearly invisible inside one of the darkest ecosystems on Earth. But the deeper scientists looked into jaguars, the more unsettling another realization became. These cats are not merely adapting to the rainforest. In some ways, they are becoming expressions of it. Because the Amazon rainforest does not reward visibility. It rewards concealment, patience, efficiency, silence. And over thousands of years, the rainforest appears to have shaped one predator into something increasingly difficult to detect, even when standing in plain sight. But concealment alone does not explain the black jaguar's growing importance. Because across parts of the Amazon rainforest, another change has begun. One that may be altering which jaguars survive and which disappear. As the forest itself starts changing around them, the ghost of the Amazon may be changing. For most of human history, the Amazon rainforest appeared permanent. An ecosystem too vast to truly change, too immense to collapse. But rainforests are not stable in the way they seem. They survive through balance, moisture cycles, temperature regulation, migration corridors, predator-prey relationships refined across millions of years. And when one layer shifts, the consequences spread outward through everything else. Nowhere is this more visible than in the movement of the jaguar. Because in parts of the Amazon, the forest is becoming fragmented. Roads divide hunting territory. Mining corridors break apart migration routes. Large sections of canopy disappear beneath fire and agricultural expansion. And for an ambush predator designed around concealment, fragmentation changes the rules of survival. Suddenly, the jungle opens. Shadows thin. Movement becomes more exposed. The environment that once favored invisibility begins disappearing in pieces. And yet, in some regions, black jaguars continue appearing at unexpectedly high frequencies, which has raised an unsettling possibility. The rainforest may not merely have created melanistic jaguars in the past. It may still be selecting for them now. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the black jaguar is not its appearance. It is its behavior. Because unlike many big cats, jaguars are unusually comfortable around water. They swim rivers effortlessly, cross flooded forest channels, hunt along riverbanks. Some have even been documented preying on caimans, directly from the water itself. This changes the psychological feeling of the animal entirely. Most predators remain tied to land. The jaguar moves between worlds: forest, river, swamp, mud, rain, darkness. There are places in the Amazon during flood season where trees emerge directly from black water for kilometers in every direction. No dry ground visible, only reflections. And through this submerged forest, jaguars still hunt. Sometimes swimming silently between partially drowned trunks. Camera trap footage from flooded regions has shown black jaguars emerging from water almost invisibly beneath low light conditions. At a distance, their bodies can disappear completely against the dark surface. Only ripples reveal movement. Then suddenly, eyes. Then nothing again. The effect feels unnatural even on modern infrared equipment. For prey animals navigating these waterways, detection time may collapse to mere seconds. And in ambush ecology, seconds determine survival. The jaguar once ranged from the southwestern United States to deep into South America. Today, much of that range has vanished. Habitat fragmentation isolates populations from one another. Road systems increase human conflict. Illegal hunting continues in some regions. And apex predators suffer first when ecosystems destabilize. Because they require the largest territories, the greatest prey density, the most intact environments, a forest may appear alive while already becoming too damaged to support large predators long term. The disappearance happens quietly at first. Fewer sightings, larger gaps between territories, reduced genetic exchange, then eventually absence. And absence in rainforests can remain invisible for years. But the loss of jaguars changes more than population numbers. It changes the behavior of the forest itself. Without apex predators, prey populations shift unpredictably. Browsing pressure changes vegetation patterns. Competition alters movement routes. Fear disappears from places where it once shaped ecological balance. The rainforest is not simply filled with organisms. It is structured by relationships between them. And the jaguar sits near the top of those relationships. A silent regulator maintaining pressures most species never consciously perceive. Remove that pressure, and ecosystems begin reorganizing in ways that can take decades to fully understand. But perhaps the strangest reality is this. Even now, despite satellites, thermal imaging, motion-triggered cameras, and modern tracking systems, the Amazon still conceals large predators with astonishing effectiveness. There are black jaguars alive today that no human has ever seen directly. Animals moving through flooded forests at night, crossing rivers beneath storms, leaving tracks that disappear beneath rainfall hours later. Entire lives unfolding invisibly beneath the canopy. Predators born, hunting, breeding, and dying without entering human awareness even once. And in an age where most of the planet has been mapped, monitored, and measured, that feels increasingly abnormal. The black jaguar represents something modern civilization rarely encounters anymore. A large predator still capable of remaining genuinely unknown. Not mythical, not supernatural, just hidden so completely that the rainforest itself seems to erase it. Simply hidden by an ecosystem vast enough to resist complete observation. The Amazon rainforest does not reveal everything inside it. Some things remain partial, fragmented, seen only briefly between shadows. And perhaps that is why the Black Jaguar continues to affect human imagination so deeply. Because when humans enter environments they cannot fully control, the mind begins responding differently. Every sound feels loaded with intent. Every dark opening between trees feels occupied. The forest stops feeling like scenery and starts feeling aware. Somewhere beyond visibility, something is moving with complete confidence. Something evolved specifically for this darkness. And for millions of years, long before roads, before borders, before satellites crossed overhead, the Amazon perfected one of the most effective ambush predators on Earth. Then, in certain regions, it made that predator even harder to see. Not larger, not faster, simply more invisible. A shadow refined by another shadow. The ghost of the Amazon. Still moving silently through the flooded forests, where light disappears beneath the canopy, and where even now, the jungle continues hiding things from us.